Hey, welcome to class. So today I think that I want to work on this piece, but what I'd like to do before I continue working on this piece is take a moment to study the leaves themselves before I just throw color on here, because that's not hard. I can absolutely just, take the leaf and throw color on top. What's complicated about that? But I want to really understand the leaf. So the first thing I want to do is take this book away and bring over my sketch pad and my pencils, and I'm going to do some sketching. So we need to pull this page off. This is a huge block of paper, and I talk about this block, what it's called, where I got it, on my art haul video. Now, for most of my videos, for my Patreon subscribers, you can go over to Patreon and you can log on there and download the extras that go with this. So if I have photographs of my sketches or my reference photos or material list, that's all going to be on Patreon. So one thing I like to do when I'm starting out, just to get a feel of this shape, is instead of doing it freehand, I like to trace it. Just the very first time. Now I'm tracing this not with the intent to trace, I'm tracing with the intent to feel. So I want to feel the movement. Bump in, bump out, right? Okay, now don't worry, that's not going to look like this, because tracing like that never looks right in that sense, but it already gives me a feeling for, okay, bump in, bump out, bump in, bump out. Now if I go over it, and these are really good beginner techniques when you're starting off, go over it a few times, right, in order to get the feel. Now look at where this is, and this is a really rough, this one's going to end here at that peak, and that's going to come down here. Okay, and then we go down a little bit more, and we know this is going to end at this peak. A little more. That's going to end at that peak. And these two are almost exactly the same point, so we're going to go up there. And this, notice, this bends in, so it's going to bend in a bit. Coming down again, and now we've got another one going to this part here, and one way down here going from here to here, and then it continues, and where is that? This one has one going up in a weird little twist there. Okay, and this is where the magnifying comes in. Now it helps if my magnifying glass is clean. Let's see up here. Okay, I cleaned it up. Isn't that pretty? So now, we can look at the bottom. Take the time to look and really get a feel for what it looks like. You're going to draw what you see, so it's really important to look at it. You see that little hole there? And for this I have my drawing pencils, pencil sharpener, and a little garbage. Comes down like this. This is more of a curve. Then we're right here. Goes up, down. Between here and here, there's a few bumps. And here we've got this brownish spot. Comes out like that. Okay, and then there's a vein going that way. And way up here we've got another brown spot. This is even a darker spot. Alright, so that's one. Now let's do it again. And we could trace it out again if we wanted to, but I already have a feel for how it's going to look. We'll just do it like this. Come through the center. Pull it over on the edge. This time I'm going to put these lines in lighter. Alright, now what I want to do is, is the opposite. So I want to get something, a pencil that's a little more intense. Now I want to block in the shadows. And I'm going to do this just by using cross-hatching. Now, cross-hatching normally looks like this. Lines this way, lines this way. And that would be like the correct way to do cross-hatching. You can also do cross-hatching more like me, and this is more like shading. So we're going, you know, nice and quick, back and forth, in whatever direction we want to go. So it doesn't have to be perfectly straight lines. Or hatching. Hatching is when you just go one direction and you don't cross over where you make the squares. You make the hash shape, right? So I apologize if you already know that. In fact, this entire video is really for a beginner who's trying to first study and lay out, figure out how to capture their subject better, how to understand their subject. So if you are good with that, please feel free to move on to the next video. Don't torture yourself if you already know. So we're just like shading this in whatever way you want to do it. Don't worry about it. Here there's a little bit of shade right in there. Down here. A little bit in here. There's a whole bunch along that center vein, which makes sense because it's got a shadow. The light's coming from that side. In fact, let's do that. We've got the light coming from here. And here. This one also is on a bump. That one is on a convex. This is on a concave. This whole area is pretty dark. So now I'm going over it and I'm making it darker. By going over again, I'm pushing a little harder. And I'm reinforcing some of those dark areas. And we're just going to keep doing this. So if you guys want to fast forward, you can do that. You can also put me on fast forward. And considering how slow I'm talking, I'll probably sound quite normal. If you go down to the bottom right corner, there's the settings. There's that little gear down there. Just click on the gear, and it will. One of the options is speed, and from there you can click on that, and then it will tell you, or it will give you the option of going faster or slower. So this side is definitely darker. Over here it's also. And we've really got a highlight here, and some highlights there, and some highlights down there. Okay. Now we're going to go a little darker. So I'm using a 4B pencil now. This is up here. It's like this half moon circle here. And it continues over here. See, this is where you really start to pay attention. It's a little dark there, a little dark here. Now I'm doing this pretty quickly because I don't want it to take so long. But you guys can do it slow or as fast as you want. I recommend really taking your time and do it a few times. Don't worry that we've just done it once. Go ahead and map it out once and then draw it again and then map it out again. Because it's going to help a lot. And don't think about drawing. Like I said, if you're not comfortable with drawing, just go ahead and trace it out, because you just need the shape, and then from there, this is what drawing is really. We're just adding shadows. Brook Leaf Study 1. Go out and get some of these guys and then come in and do some sketches. I know this is a painting channel and we're all about watercolor, and that is what we're doing, but this is fundamental to understand where your shapes are, to learn about your subject. And I would do the same thing if I was going to do a chestnut, if I was going to do a peanut, if I was going to do a pepper. I've done all of these pieces quite recently. A chestnut in its shell. What else do I have here on my desk? This one I painted and put on Instagram just a few days ago. So any of these subjects, I would draw them out first to get a feel for their shapes, their shadows, and their highlights. Like I said in the beginning, this is one example of doing exactly that. Okay, and here is another one. This is a eggplant, and on this particular one I have sketched it a few times from all different angles and written in the different colors, the highlights, where the highlights are, where the shadows are. This is a block for where the highlight is. And then of course gone ahead and sketched it out with really good strong tonal variation so that I understand what it looks like, so when I go to paint it, it makes more sense. That's really all it is. So like I said, your homework is to find something, figure out what subject you want to do. Fruit, vegetables, I prefer at this point to do leaves, and do some sketches. Thanks for watching. I'm Scarlett, and I'll see you in the next class. Toodaloo!